Hey, everybody. Uh, it cooled off quite a bit from the last few days, so I am gung ho. I'm going to get a lot done today. And that was kind of what I was thinking about, and that's what we're going to discuss. Um, the other day I talked about the difference between avoidance and detachment. Um, and today we're going to talk about the difference between ambition and hustle. Hustle is what this world has programmed people to do. Um, it's really just aimlessly keeping busy, is what it is, constantly producing. Whereas ambition requires intent to stay focused. You have the goal that you want to reach, and you do what it takes to reach that goal. Um, I see too many people in the world now getting those things confused. Um, those that hustle are trying to keep their head above water. Those with ambition are building a future. And again, not to discount those that are doing the hustle by all means. Um, just be aware of again those thoughts. Uh, my biggest complaint about people in the world today is that nobody likes to go beyond the surface. Nobody takes the time to look at anything deeper than surface level, and that is really the biggest factor in why the world is the way it is. You have too many people not willing to self reflect or do the work, or even if they did self reflect, they don't have the experience or the emotional intelligence to make it worthwhile. Um, and so you have to educate yourself. That's what I did. Um, People had the impression the last few years, that I was just sitting around moping. And I understand why they had that uh, viewpoint, but what I was actually doing was hiding on the sidelines, rebuilding myself or learning how to rebuild myself. I didn't start the rebuild; that came later. But I learned how. I studied. I looked up information about it. One of the great things about this age is it's a blessing and a curse. We have the internet. We can spread and multiply some bad stuff, but it also gives us access to some good stuff. And if the resources aren't there, like I said, getting into, therapy and counseling and all that has been a rough battle in this area. Um, but just because you don't have access to the normal way of doing things doesn't mean you give up. You know, you have to do. In the end, all a psychiatrist or therapist or whatever is going to do is help guide you, but they don't do the work for you. That is not how this works. And again, not to discount at all, because I greatly admire what they do, the education they have to go through. Um, I'm not saying they're in any way, I'm not degrading their profession. It is actually very necessary. Um, I wish more people would get into therapy and start getting themselves some help. But again, I understand that in the world we live in right now, the resources are not as available as they really should be. But that's why we start this movement. That's why we do this. We, you know, help ourselves. That's the name of the game. You've got to make a difference. You got to make changes. Well, if you want different results anyway, you have to be willing to put in the work. You know, um, like I said, the old me was notorious for starting something and not finishing it. Part of that was the ADHD. Part of it was my own personality, a lack of discipline. Now I've gotten addicted to this journey of growth. It's a never ending process because you can always make improvements. You can always do better. And that's what we're doing here. And again, you have to think deeper than surface level because some of the issues you have are caused by your own actions and choices. And if you don't take it down to the root of it, you might slap a band-aid on one particular problem, but you're not going to solve the whole issue. That's why you have to be willing to take it further. And not only is it improvements in yourself, but it unlocks more of your own potential. It makes you, again, a great comparison is look at me and my health-wise, physically, I look okay, but I'm not, and I can't do the physical things that I used to. But because I've spent some time sharpening my mind, doesn't make me useless. It just makes, I'm not disabled, I'm differently abled now. Back in the old days, I wasn't really known much for my brain, although people did notice that I had some intelligence. But I wasn't really known for my brains. I was known for my movement, my labor, my muscle. And I think that's why it takes some people by surprise, if they take the time to actually listen to me, because that doesn't happen often. Because again, we're trained to not have, take the time for each other that way. We are trained to not be interested in looking below surface level. And again, it's to our detriment. Look deeper. Always just keep going. Never give up. Keep digging. You will find everything you need. Everything you need, you were born with. You just have to dig it out and bring it to the surface. Cultivate it, nurture it, direct it. Again, one of my big flaws was discipline, and I have made it my goal before the end of the month to be clear of multiple vices that I've had, and right now I am on course for every single one, and that's a good feeling. Matter of fact, I've discovered a couple more. Another vice that I've had lately, because I've been, stuck in my fields. And I mean, the heat is a genuine reason for it, but it's also an excuse. I've been sitting around, scrolling lately. Like, what am I getting done doing that? Now today it's much cooler, and I've had this realization about the discipline. I'm going to get a lot done today because I've been, like I said, the last few days I've been conserving energy because of the heat. So today I get to make up for that lost time. And this is where, I tell people all the time, and you're going to keep hearing me say it, build your discernment. Again, get away from that binary black and white thinking. Build on your discernment. Hone that skill. Learn to look at things deeper than the surface so you can compare and contrast where you need to make better choices. Again, that's the name of the game. The more work you do, the easier it comes to you. The more naturally you'll be able to do parts of this process. Excuse me. I was up and down a couple times last night. We had this really cool storm. There was a lot of lightning flashes, but no noise. There was no wind, no thunder, just flashes in the sky, and I love that. So I sat up and watched some of it, but then, I got my butt to bed because I knew I had work to do today. Um, but yeah, that's another little side note. Appreciate the awesomeness of nature, either the beauty of it or the destructive force or whatever it is that appeals to you. Start to get more in tune with nature, because that's what gets you in tune with God. You can find God everywhere and in everything, but in pure, untouched by humanity nature, that is the absolute best place to go. That is the best place to find that connection. But again, you have to have the discipline to make the time to do the things that are best for you. One of the biggest tricks they pull on us is we're all so busy excuse me, that we don't make time. I can't do that. I have to do this instead. Pay attention to your priorities. Again, this is where that discernment comes in. Because some of us are making things priorities that shouldn't be. And we're losing out on ourselves. We're fumbling our own bags because of it. Alright, I'm going to cut this one a little shorter today because, one, I've been going over a lot, and two, I'm itching to get moving. I got some stuff to get done. I've got a lot of ideas for the next steps to take, so I'm going to get busy on it. But take care of yourselves. Try and keep taking care of each other. And I'll see you in the next one.